Alright, hello everyone. This is Kazejiro, and welcome to something, as I feel like I'm saying a lot more often lately, something that we're not usually going to do on this channel. Maybe it should be a little more usual now. But this is not gameplay, it's going to be something maybe relating to a certain franchise that we're used to hearing about. Maybe not, I don't know your story. But today, we're going to be mixing Hetalia and Pokemon. So, I decided basically that I wanted to make a video that would be taking a handful of the Hetalia characters and seeing what type of Pokemon that they would be. So, before we get into it, these are just my opinions. You may think of something different. You may say like, oh, this character should be this type, or this type combination, or they should be this. That's fine. Put that down in the description. I love to hear that kind of stuff. But these are just going to be what I think it would be. So let's keep some things in mind. This is not going to be what Pokemon they would have if they were trainers. Nor is this the type of team they would have. I have different ideas for those things. Nor will we be discussing what role they would have in the Pokemon world. Or this is also not which Pokemon there will be. I will have examples of the types of Pokemon that I will be typing them as. But this will not be, they will not necessarily be those Pokemon. So without further ado, I'd say let's get into it. Let's get into our first one. So, first one we have is our boy, the wonderful North Italy, Feliciano Vargas. We love him. I would make Feliciano a fairy type. He's a fairy type because he is bright, he's bubbly, he's playful, and that's just kind of the things I feel like a fairy type would be. And these traits are pretty much arbitrary, basically, so like, there's no concrete thing of like, this is what a fairy type is. This is what I view them as. And there's also other ways I view fairy type, which we might see later on, or may not, I'm not sure. But, so yeah, Feliciano would be a fairy type. I love that idea of him. But also, an example of the fairy type would be Sylveon. And I really honestly feel like if Feliciano were a Pokemon, he actually would be a Sylveon. I feel like that fits him to a T. Moving on, we have his partner in crime, well, one of his partners in crime, Germany. Mr. Ludwig Schmidt, or actually no, that's not his last name. But anyway, he doesn't have a surname. But Ludwig, I feel like he would be a steel ground type. That's because he's just so grounded, he's sturdy, he's tough, he's focused. So like, just based on those things in general, I feel like he would be perfect for being a steel ground type. A good example of that would be Excadrill, who, after doing research a little bit for this video, it's a really cool Pokemon, but I think that'll fit him. Now, Germany's not necessarily Excadrill, but I feel like that's a good example of what this type is. It's either this or Steelix. Moving on to the tertiary partner in crime, Japan. Good old Nihon. Mr. Kiku Honda. I feel like he would be a psychic grass type because he's very intuitive. He's all about sensing the mood and reading the mood, but he's also very peaceful. He kind of has a sereneness about him. So, I mean, also just look at the picture. Look at the picture I chose for him. Tell me that doesn't seem serene, but a good example of a psychic grass type would be Celebi. And it's like, oh, Japan has a Celebi. It's like, he doesn't necessarily have one, but Japan's Celebi, It's like, I mean, it's his franchise. He can have a legendary if he wants to. He's not the only one with legendary on his list. Speaking of the next person with a legendary, let's go to America. I feel wholeheartedly that America, Mr. Alfred F. Jones, F is for freedom, that I feel like Alfred would actually be an electric flying type. Because one thing about Alfred is that he's so dynamic, he's exciting, he's fast-paced, he's free-flowing, he kind of just does what he wants. And he's, you know, he does things just he's very off-the-walls bouncy. And a good example of electric flying type is Zapdos. Low-key, I could see Alfred having a Zapdos. I don't know why. So, moving on, we have everyone's favorite punk gentleman, England. Mr. Arthur Kirkland. He would be a poison fairy type. Now, the mix of poison and fairy is fun, because I actually did find everything's very fitting for like what Pokemon is an example of this. But for England, I feel like he has his punk side, which is the poison side. He can be bristly, he can be prickly, he can be kind of abrasive, but he also has that kind of softer interior, and he also has that magic aspect to him, so I feel like that works well for fairy, so I feel like that's a good pairing. And the fun part is that from the recent Generation 8 of Pokemon, the Galar region is actually based on the United Kingdom. So what better to have England represented than a Galarian Weezing? I think that's perfect, which is actually a poison fairy type. Moving on, let's talk about France. France, Mr. Francis Bonfoy, would be a fairy dark type. Now, why the dark type? Why the dark type? Why the not just a fairy? He's Peter Pan for Halloween and things like that. France, though it's being toned down a lot more now, still does have that, you know, that griminess a little bit. He's still a perv, even though it's getting toned down. But I put the fairy first because he is that beauty, he's that light, he's that fluffy, the romance, the positive, and then you get the dark scummy side, the I want to see you naked and stuff like that. I don't think he's ever said that. Actually, you know, and well, actions speak louder than words, but to a certain event. But a good example of this would be Grimmsnarl, which is another Generation 8 Pokemon. It's a shame I couldn't find a Generation 6 Pokemon for this, since Kalos is based on France. But what can you do? This is the only fairy dark type in the series. Now, is France necessarily a Grimmsnarl? No. But is that the example of a type? Yes. Alright, let's move on to everyone's cuddly boy, Russia. Russia, Mr. Ivan Braginsky, is going to be an ice. Yes, I know, cliche. But you can't deny the ice. An ice dark type. But for me, it's also a toss-up between ice dark and ice fairy. Now, this doesn't mean I see France. When I give someone the dark type, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are evil. Even though the dark type in Japanese is watery, like it's evil, it doesn't mean that I view Russia as bad. And I feel like I don't cut Russia a lot of slack on this channel. And it's mainly because Russia's a character I don't pay that much attention to. He's just like, I'm like, okay, cool, he's here. Boom, check him off, go on about your way. But Russia's fine with me. I don't have anything against Russia. But the ice type I have because General Winter, because come on, Russia, snow. Siberia, come on now. And then we have the dark type for his dark side, the dark aura, all the tragic stuff he's been through, dealing with his bosses and all of that. Russia has a lot of darkness to him. The childishly cruel aspect, that's where we could probably get into fairy type if we wanted to. But with the childishly cruel, there's also the cruel aspect, which could be dark. So I chose ice dark definitively because I could find an example for it. I couldn't find an example of ice fairy type. And the example of ice dark would be Weavile. So moving on, we have China, Mr. Wang Yao. What else would we have for China other than Psychic and Dragon? Now, I don't have Dragon here because of China. I kind of just realized that. I was like, oh, Dragons, China, that makes sense. But I have Psychic here because China is very wise. He gives lots of advice. He's been around for a long time. And another reason why another aspect of him being around for a long time also made me want to give him the Dragon type. Because he can also be very energetic, which I feel like Dragon types are very he's not very wild, but he's also very energetic. And I feel like that works. An example of a psychic dragon is Latios. So, keynote, Taiwan's not on this list, but if Taiwan were here, she would have the same type and she would have Latias. Fun little thing. Alright, moving on to Poison, Mr. Prussia, Gilbert Billschmidt. Hello, sir. Prussia, I feel like, would be a bug electric type. Now, it's like you think about Prussia, you think wild, so why doesn't he have dragon? Well, I get the wild, I'll give him the electric because of that, but I really want to give him bug because he's a pest. I mean, think about how much he annoys Austria and Hungary. He's always poke, 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 annoy, 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 rile you up. And so, like, of course there's more to him than that, but he's also very energetic, so he also gets the bug and electric type. An example of bug electric type would be Vikavolt. And I really feel like he would have one. I feel like Prussia would actually be a bug type trainer. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the white hair. Maybe he looks like Guzma to me. I don't know. But moving on, we have Canada, Mr. Canada himself. Matthew Williams, hello. Canada's going to be a grass type. Simply pure grass type. Because he's so calm, he's so cool, he's collected. Okay, maybe he's not cool, he's kind of a dork. But he's very calm, he's very serene, he's very just middle of the road. Wants peace, wants a lot of peace and things like that. So I feel like that works for him. Grass type definitely works for him. And then with that, an example of that would be Superior, aka my favorite starter. But moving on, we'll have South Italy, Romano. Lovino Vargas. What type would I make him? I would make him a pure poison type. And just because I make him a poison type doesn't mean I dislike Romano. It doesn't mean I think Romano is bad. I gave him poison type just because he can be prickly. He's such an abrasive, prickly person. But I think you could also go a poison fairy type if you wanted to, just to link him to Italy. Just to link him to Veneziano. And to get his lighter parts, because he's a bit soon. He's a bit soon today. He does have his, his prickly Barbie outward, thorny type exterior. But then he can also be softer, especially around women. So either just a pure poison type or a poison fairy type. Pick your poison with it. Pick your poison with it. There you go. Alright, so next up on the list. Oh, sorry. An example of a pure poison type would be Arbok. Do I think he would have one? No. Moving on, we have Spain, the land of passion himself. Mr. Antonio Fernandez Carriero. He'll be a pure fire type. Just passion. Unadulterated, full forced passion. I have in my notes right here, passion in all caps. Passion, fire, and desire. So yeah, that's just how I feel about Spain. I feel like he'd just be a pure fire type. An example of that would be Dark Manitan. And I feel like he would actually have one of these. I think it fits. That's just me. Moving on, we have my baby, Thailand. Oh my gosh, hello. And Thailand would be a normal flying type. Why a normal flying type for Thailand? Because Thailand's a total airhead. We love him, but he's a total airhead. He can be flighty, he can be absent-minded, and I just think him being a flying type, but he's also just basically polite and kind of basic, so normal flying type, I feel like that works. An example of that would be Swellow. Moving on to everyone's best girl, and you know what, it's probably not everyone's best girl, but you know what, she is best girl in my book. Seychelles. Now, Seychelles is one of the characters that I actually thought of what Pokemon I think they would be, and then attributed a type to them. So, I feel like Seychelles would be a water electric type. Water because beaches, she's very tropical, and electric because she's very energetic. Like, she's very energetic, and it's just like you just see how she reacts when like England says, "Hey, the prince and princess are coming to like your country." Kind of mumble about it to myself, and she goes off spinning, and she has energy. I like that. And what better Pokemon to capture Seychelles' essence than Lantern? Tell me that doesn't work. She would totally have this Pokemon, and if she were one, if this were Mystery Dungeon, I feel like she would actually be this Pokemon. I think it's perfect. It suits her to a T. Now, moving on, we have Cuba, aka second best boy. I may say a whole bunch of things that I may or may not agree with later on, but like, I'm just kind of rambling right now. But second best boy, we have Cuba. Now with Cuba, I made him a grass fighting type because he's very cool, he's very nice, very kind, almost kind of peaceful, I feel. When he's not around America, that's where the fighting type comes in, but not always. He's also a hothead. But he's just a calm and cool person, I feel. Unless he's around America. And then we have like the fighting type because he's a hothead. I know I've repeated myself, but this is rambling. And what better example for a grass fighting type than a chestnut? I love chestnut. And I feel like if Cuba were a Pokemon, this would be him, and it was perfect. Also, shout out to my female chestnut for my Gen 6 playthrough, Haruhi, I love you. I'm sure you're in a box somewhere. Anyway. Let's move on to Cameroon. Now, Cameroon is a character that we don't really know a lot about, I feel. And it was kind of hard to type him. I just wanted to include him because I love him. Cameroon, I feel, would be a ground grass type. Because he seems like someone that's very sturdy and rooted, but also very peaceful and kind. And just, you know, very calm. He seems grounded and calm. So, an example of a ground grass type would be a Torterra. So that's what we got for Cameroon. Now, we can move on to Belarus. I'm gonna butcher this name. Natalia Oroskova? I forgot. Miss Natalia. Hello. Ma'am, you would be an ice ghost type. Now, the ice type is not because she's in close proximity to Russia or she deals with Russia. No. She gets the ice type because Natalia can be cold. She can be a very cold individual. Almost like she's constantly giving people the cold shoulder. She can be abrasive, which also she could also be a poison type if you want to think about that. But ice type, and then we have the ghost type, and of course her relation to, I know she doesn't have it because of her relation to Russia, but it kind of works that way, that she'll have an ice type as well. But the ghost type is because she does deal with the occult. She can talk to ghosts. Last time I checked, someone fact checked me. And then she does deal with that occult things. So I feel like the ghost type is wonderful. And I think that if she were a Pokemon, she would be a Frostlass. I feel like that just works for her. She's very beautiful, but she's also a ghost. She deals with that stuff. Moving next, we have Miss Ukraine. Hello, Ukraine. Ukraine is another one of the characters that I just saw a Pokemon and I was like, this is you. So some characters, like I said, like just like Seychelles, I feel like I saw this Pokemon and I said, this is you and this is your type. Ukraine is not a nice type. She's a normal type. And I feel like the Pokemon that best matches her would be Blissey. I just think that Ukraine, if this was a Pokemon, I feel like she could really fulfill the Nurse Joy job. I feel like she could work in a Pokemon Center. I just feel like it just works. And I feel like she would either have a Blissey or be a Blissey. Or Chansey, whatever your fancy is. But yeah, that's basically my reasoning for Ukraine. Alright, moving on to our last one. Can you guess who it is? Can you guess who the next one is? If you've been watching this channel, my Hetalia stuff, you know who my favorite character is. Let's move on to Turkey, Mr. Sadiq Adnan himself. Hello. Now, Turkey is a character that can be wild, he can be energetic, but he's also been around a lot and he has lots of stories to tell. So, if I were to put those things together, I feel like he would be just a pure dragon type. Old, energetic, brash, abrasive, but like still cool. And I feel like that a good example of him would be a Haxorus. So, yeah, that's pretty much my list. That's the video. And I thought it was fun to sit there and try to type some Hetalia characters. Maybe I'll do more in the future, I'm not sure, but it was good to get this bunch and just really give them these types. So, let me know what types you think like these characters or other characters would be. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? Just let me know in the comments. Keep it civil down there. These are just opinions. It's just for fun. These are 2D pixels on the screen. But anyway, I'd like to thank y'all so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of yourselves. Protect your peace out there. Love y'all. Bye.